Hey guys, welcome back to the Rad Waxing and UK One Wheel channel. So, back on the Mini in this episode, yet again. We have so many more episodes to come. The workload is just mounting up because I keep adding stuff, which is my own fault. However, I'm going to be cutting and grinding a lot in this episode. I've got to cut a bit more out of the box to go in the top, so that can obviously fettle and get that nice and tight. I'm going to be making some templates for all the holes. I've got to cut the air ducting, which is just over here, the actual lip coming in the car. I'm going to shave that completely off so we can make a plate to go in there. I've already made some brackets for the dash to mount, which is great. I've made some captive nuts on the back, so that would be nice and easy to take out and remove. So yeah, basically, I've got to move the heater box mountings in the car as well, because the pedal box does foul slightly on the left-hand one. So again, they say it's a direct fit. I think you could possibly just bolt it into the two holes, but I think with a bit of fettling and a bit of fiddling with it, I love the word fettling, I said that a lot in my last video. I think you can make it obviously a lot stronger and a lot better. That's why I've got this in here, because I've just been trying to lie in there and kind of work out how it works. But I found that bracket that was getting in the way. I've got some captive riv nuts which I need to trim off, and I've got tabs everywhere which held all the insulation, which I'm also going to get rid of those. So yeah, cutting and grinding and just making sure things look tip top and get them fitting a little bit better. So that's this episode. So yeah, there'll be some music and be some cutting, and there'll be some grinding, and there'll be lots of sparks. I am going to try and cover up my windscreen, because obviously with grinding, if you have never done it before, a bit like me, and it is kind of your first time, I'll give anything a go. I don't really want to damage the carbon with the sparks, and I definitely don't want to get the hot sparks sticking in the glass and ruining that. So I'm going to do some covering up first and get on to some cutting. I've got to work out which way the sparks are going to fly. So, see you in a sec. Okay, notes to self, wear ear defenders. So just cut this extra little bit out of the top. So it's got the two captive nuts, so that will sit up slightly better. I've just cut off, which I will take off these bits here, but I just cut off the heater flanges, and very tight to get in here. So I'm going to tidy this up now with a grinder, but we've cut majority of that off with obviously the cutting disc as well. So got some tidying to do there, and got some tidying to do down on these the heater flanges, the flaps just down here. I'm going to tidy up around here as well and just take some of those burrs off, but I've got a sander for that as well as, but we're getting there. We are getting there. So I'm going to try to offer the box up. I'll tell you what, let's do that now a second. Let's get you to the front of the car. Okay, so first time fit. Let's just remove my light. Let's have a look. See if this pushes all the way home. Not tried this yet, so you're seeing it as I see it. That is pushing a lot better and a lot more at home. Just make sure we've got it. Yeah, there we go. So that now fits nice and flush. I've just got to do a little bit up here, just up under here. I think we've still got a bit of a captive nut that was sat there from the actual centre speedo, but that's now fitting a lot flusher, a bit of dollying, and we'll get that looking good. So that's fitting a lot tighter now. And again, a little bit by little bit. Again, I'm no fabricator, but I suppose measure once, or should I say measure twice, cut once. I've actually cut this out in a size, and I've made it a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. So the last thing you want is to offer this up and this just fall straight into the car, because then I'd be on to plan B, which would be cutting all of it out and making it nice and flush and flat all the way across. Yeah, quite pleased with that. So I've got a bit of grinding to do this side. Let's just pull that out a second. So it's a little bit tight just up there, and I've got I've got a bit of a lip there, so I can grind that off. I've got to be careful. I should really, I suppose, take the wipers out. This line isn't the straightest line in the world, so I will just grind this down here as well, make that slightly straighter, and just tidy that up as well. I'm so looking forward to being able to start stripping this and getting paint back on it, because I hate this. It's just doing my OCD no good, this mess, but you've got to make a mess. So I'm going to put you back in the stand, and we're going to do a bit more grinding. I'm going to switch the disc out. Again, for you people that don't know, I've got a very thin cutting disc here. This thing eats through metal like butter. I actually have bought myself some additional cutting discs, nice and thin again, for any other bits I need to do, possibly boot floor. I've got myself a rust cleaning pad, fast stripping metal, so that's what I'm going to clean up all the inside up with. That was recommended, would you believe, through somebody through Instagram, which was very kind of them. I cannot remember their name, but if you know who you are, thank you very much indeed if you do watch the videos. And in the bag of tricks, just down here, we've got some thicker grinding discs. Now these obviously are a little bit thicker. And that just obviously, they are cutting as well, but you tend to find these are a little bit more robust just to grind that off. So my neighbours must love me, it's nice and noisy. So let's get that in the device and let's crack on and get that tidied up. Ear defenders, must wear me ear defenders. Taking off the captive nuts there and there, and just going to start cleaning up around these holes, getting ready for welding. Taking off these two captive nuts just here because they stick out quite proud, so I can clean all this back. We've cut the inner wheel arch here, thinking about maybe cutting this out and putting a shelf in here, welding some form of shelf, so maybe just cut out a square. I need to order an oil cooler, so where we can mount the oil cooler, and then we could have the pipes coming down or out the front and in through the grill or something funky, or we could put it this side. Again, just cutting this out down the bottom, so it's just tidier, because it was also jaggedy, because back in the day, obviously they've had this car a long time, they needed to get to the brakes, and instead of faffing around by taking the stuff around, they literally just got my inner wing and just bent it out of the way like they used to get into my brake pipes, opposed to just coming down from the top, and then bent the panel back again. So I cut it out roughly last time, and it wasn't the cleanest of jobs, so I'm going to try and make sure this looks nice and tidy. It's not going to look OEM. But yeah, so done all of that, which is grand. It's typical. I kind of tapped up Endaf Owens, and he's just gone and put a mini MIG body shell up for sale, and that's an absolute bargain at £9 grand, but I've committed myself to this. I am so excited. The parts are back from powder coating. Super quick turnaround, I must admit. It's been like less than a week, and the transformation is amazing. I've gone for kind of a bland colour. I haven't gone for anything too retro, but I'm going to carry on though in this episode, just modifying my carbon dash just here and just cutting this down to get this to fit. I'm going to show you some brackets now on the floor over here. Let's just quickly go outside. So I'm going to show you some brackets now. I'm going to be mounting that into the car, and they're going to be welded in permanently. But before we do that, let's have a quick look at my new powder coating. Here we go. Okay, here we are. So the powder coating on the actual subframe itself looks phenomenal. We've obviously did the additional welding down here, in here, and all across the back. We've gone for a satin black finish. Now I was going to go for something quite blue and retro, so all these additional welds here and here and up here. So yeah, it's come out absolutely lovely. And we welded those additional plates on just on the underside. I I think it looks fantastic. So all original subframe. Then we've gone for like a grey. So we've got solid subframe mounts, which is just here. Obviously they don't need to be painted, but I will put some copper grease on that. Got the high-lows, front arms with washers. Got the alternator bracket, which it looks pretty cool. Engine steady mount, bottom arm pins. I will just need to sand off this because they are quite tight in the subframe, so a bit of fettling needs to be going on with that one. Fan pulley, steering rack bolts, front tow eye. Again, I'm going to possibly go over to an oil cooler, so I might not need that, but we've even had that done. And the finish is just phenomenal. Top arms, we've got those bushes all pressed out, so I've got new sleeves and everything to go in there, and we've even taken the hole out there as well, look. Yeah, absolutely top notch. Radiator mount, which is there. Bottom arms, fan blades, top arm, mounting plates, washer bottle, clamp, distributor, even though we're going fuel injection, that was in the box, we had that done as well. Just a water jacket goes on top of the cylinder head, and these are the 4 brackets that will be bending. I haven't had these powder coated, these are just something I've mocked up and welded a captive nut on the back, so it makes removing the dash nice and simple. We haven't got to climb up underneath with a spanner and do it from both sides. Now the guy who's done all this powder coating, apologies for whispering, it's quite early in the morning, is Bruce at BA Powder Coating and Polishing in Exeter. Absolute legendary guy, really good value for money, and the quality is second to none. I am so happy how that subframe comes out, and I think it's going to look really smart when you put this colour just on there. The contrast is really cool. I was going to go for a bright blue or yellow, and I thought no, just keep it nice and subtle. And so yeah, subframe and all the bits. So I'm going to be building this all up. I've got obviously all the bits to do this, so but I'll do this in a separate episode, so do hit that like and hit that subscribe. But we're going to get into the Mini, into the mess. There's the box, it's looking all good. Trimmed all this out, so we're going to weld a bracket on here and cover these up, and then for the top arm, taking off the accelerator pedal bolts for the left-hand drive. I'm going to weld all that up, clean all that up, and then we've got to just clean up all these other bits, taking off the captive nuts for where the centre speedo would normally mount, because there is no going back. I know I keep mentioning the same stuff, but I'm quite excited. If you have a quick look inside, we've cut that hole out there now, so that's lovely and flush. Going to tidy that up. Start stripping off around there because I'm going to re-weld that so I can re-drill that, because that's obviously a lot bigger. But the reason for doing the dash is so I can get the dash and mark on here where I'm going to cut. And I'm going to put a reinforcement plate across here and weld that in to strengthen obviously the bar going across. Not that it really will have anything on it, but it's just morely so it doesn't bend, and we'll add a little bit more rigidity to it. And I'm thinking about possibly just blanking in some of this with some metal or some holes in to put bits through, but basically to keep all their wires and everything. And possibly, again, the wiper motor I want to mount in here, so I've got to work out how I'm going to do that. I might just need one of these pipes and just extend it. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pop in a stand, and we're going to just fettle the edge of this dash, try and work out where these brackets go, and get them screwed into place, so then we can just unscrew them and weld them. Cool, let's crack on with that. Right, let's get down to trimming this carbon dash. One important thing, mask. This stuff is not good for your lungs, so stick that on, pop you on time lapse, and let's just try and trim this down and see if we can get it to fit. Right, we're just going to mark this and there, and then I know where to cut. That's quite comfortably marked. We've got the edge fitting in here so much better now, and that's with the door seal on, So we didn't quite have to go as far as that white mark that we did have, so that's why it's always worth to do a little bit. And that actually fits in, would you believe, with no brackets, but obviously not that we're not going to fit it with no brackets. Looks really, really good. So the brackets we've got, just got to work out the best way of mounting these. Sadly, it's not the best finished in the world. There's some marks and there's some air bubbles in the lacquer. I would like to send it off to Carbon Weasel for them just to settle it and make it look A1, but it looks good. I am really pleased with that look, to be honest with you. I could have got one with a tower that came up here. That was quite cool with a switch panel on, but I did quite like the pod on there as well, which looks quite cool. So that's fitting nicely down there. Again, fitting nicely there as the windowsill goes up. It's fitting nicely there, and away we go. Yeah, so that's cool. So I'm just gonna work out where now to put the brackets, and I'll show you in a sec. Okay, so I've bent up my brackets and marked up on my windowsill, so when I drill in through the top here, I can actually get in and not actually catch the old air vent. And my thoughts are to put this kind of here, level that up, and then just put it into place. Let's see, and then obviously mount the dash off of that. That's the plan. So we're going to offer the dash up and do the same over there. That wood's just propping the box up, by the way, just so we can get a nice tight fit, so we can start dollying that into place. And yeah, so that's the plan. It's just clear, we need to get rid of all of that. So let's try and fettle this into place. There's that word again, fettle. Let's crack on. Hello. Right, after multiple disruptions today, but one of them was a nice one. My old buddy that used to work on minis, Lee, he came over to see me, which was quite cool. Was having a look at what I'm doing, so hopefully that all might spark him up into starting his mini again. But anyway, I've marked these out. So what these lines are here, these are the lines of the top rail, so I can work out where the best place is to drill on here. This is the box, so to be fair, I'm thinking around here and here, so we can weld a captive nut on the back of that top rail. That is the top of the bottom bar, and basically these brackets here, I've basically fitted the dash in, held it in place, and then marked it, so I can weld this bracket to the inside of the inner wing and drill through and have a bolt there, which is quite cool. So I'm going to try and mimic that once this is cut or drilled. Here, I'm going to try and mimic that down the other end, and then we'll drill these holes here and then mark it up in the car. We'll bolt these in, and then we can mark this on the inside of the inner wing, and then we know where it's mounting. Hope that makes sense. I'm kind of making it up as I go along, so let's get the drill and drill some holes. So, always the art of measuring twice and drilling or cutting once pays testament here. Just offered this up, so this is 41 centimeters from the edge to here, and vice versa, because you want it symmetrical when you're sat in the car looking at it. I've gone 4.5 centimeters in, but I think that's too far down the dash up here, so we've just basically transferred those measurements to the top of the dash. I'm actually going to take it back in 1 centimeter, I think, and then we're going to drill and just offer it up again. So let's quickly do that, and I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so that fits lovely there. My makeshift washer with some electrical tape on the back, not to scratch the carbon. I will get some nice washers and bolts. If anybody knows where you can get some fancy nuts and bolts and washers, I know there's some anodized ones you can get, which are quite cool, then please can you just leave a comment in below, because I'll get some cool ones for that. But that fits in a treat. I don't know if you can have a look up under there. You may not be able to see it. That might be a complete and utter waste of time, but basically just up there, that mounts, and I'll get that mounted so that's actually touching the sidewall, and I'll push that in. Oops. I'll push that in, and I'll get that stuck on, and we'll get that welded in place. I've just got to do the same, which we're going to do over there in a minute. But yeah, this is a difference. So 3, 4 and 4.5. How it looks, obviously these look quite far out. 3 centimeters I think would be good. We're not too far off the box, so yeah, I think that would look quite trick. I'm just leaving it, so I want to be able to weld a captive nut on the underside, and the reason for doing so, then it's just a case of an Allen key, but also being able to get access to it, obviously it coming upwards and not fouling the windscreen. So I've got to allow for this distance. Obviously 4.5 centimeters is lovely. 4 is kind of like your middle ground, maybe 3.75, or 3 centimeters being a bit tighter. So I think what I will do is just mark that out on the actual panel itself. And I've got a bracket over there. But guys, I'm going to get that drilled very quickly, and we'll just offer that up and see how that looks, and go from there. So stay tuned. Right, okay, so I've drilled through from the back with a very, very small drill bit, just to give myself a pilot hole. And the reason why I'm not drilling from the back all the way, because it will actually puncture out the lacquer from the top of it. So I've got myself a pilot hole, piece of wood, just a sandwich, so it gives a bit of background support, and then we just line up and make the hole that a little bit bigger. And I'll do the same with that one. And we just basically move up the drill bits in size. Oh, that sound of cracking fiberglass or lacquer. Oh, makes your skin crawl. Right, a bit more. Try and get a cleaner cut. A lot better, a bit of speed in that one. Same with this one. Start off nice and slow, just to try and take off the whispers that you leave, and we're going to go up to a decent size hole so we can get a bolt through, and we'll put some fancy washers on there, and hopefully these are in the right place. Now going back, there we go. Last one. Just try and tidy this one up, squeeze it a bit tighter. So there we are. So let's take you in the car, offer this up. Let's hopefully those holes are on green paint, and then we can mark those, and then we can drill those out in the car, and yeah, go from there. So let's take you back in to the car. Here we go, moment of truth. We got green, we have green, and we have green, so we can mark those up. Now, if anybody wants to know, I've measured 41, and I actually went 3.75 in, 3.75 in, and that way then I think you're missing the air vents, so a bit of calculation. Obviously I've got the air box in, so again, if you have an air box like mine, you're missing the air box, hopefully. And again, this bracket's just here, so we've got just here. That fits a treat. We're going to replicate that over there. I'm going to weld the captive nuts. And again, this is all about getting all this ready to go. So when we do the welding, we can just hit it and get everything done in one foul swoop. Guys, this video's gone on a fair bit. As you can see, I'm making progress very slowly, and I'm just making sure that I don't mess anything up. So guys, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. But until next time, we will see you soon.